We'll go live in 20 seconds.
I don't know that he would allow me to have that conversation with him, though. Does that make sense? I think that would be, he would feel like that was a dagger.
We may work that out.
Get your groove on.
Welcome to Lisa's Changing Perceptions. Lisa is the creator of Changing Perceptions. Through life experience, she has discovered that we all suffer internal wounds that guide us. We live in a society that puts a label and expectation on everything and everyone. So many are in constant battle with themselves, never winning the war or ever feeling good enough. Lisa's Changing Perceptions is a show that offers tools and guidance that will assist you in discovering you and unlocking the chains of pain that bind you. You can reach Lisa at www.lisaschangingperceptions.com or give her an email at lisaschangingperceptions@gmail.com or even a call 262-573-7055. Today, where does my negative mind talk come from? Welcome back, Lisa.
Good morning, Kent. How are you?
I'm good.
I wish people could see you because I look like an idiot sitting here laughing because they don't see you as the music's going back there, getting your groove on. And then all of a sudden, when you go to read, you like stop and focus. And it's watching your antics behind the screen. And so it's like, okay, look, you guys can't see Kent, but I can. So now I just look stupid.
Well, no. I start laughing because our green room conversations are always great with energy, and then this music comes in. I go, oh, it's like warm water. And it's like, oh, there it is.
So good morning, everybody. I'm Lisa with Lisa's Changing Perceptions. I am a self-empowerment coach, a diplomaed hypnotherapist, and a double certified NLP practitioner. And we come here every week hoping to help people put their puzzle pieces together, I guess, as part of it. Put the picture together.
And of course, a big thank you to Natural Therapy Wellness Center, www.mchenrymassage.com, 815-385-8190 for sponsoring the show. Absolutely great people. Julie says, good morning from me and my new sweater. Thank you.
There's a story behind that sweater, Julie. It's funny. I'll just
I got you now.
Well, yeah. I'll get teary now at the beginning. We don't want to do that, but there's a story behind that sweater, and it's a story that's kind of bigger. So I'm going to tell it because the truth is it's part of how life works. So there was a time not long ago that I literally had nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean, yes, I had a place to live, but I was 52 years old living with my mother, sleeping on a twin bed. And the only job I could find in the moment was $11 an hour part time. My blessings I would try to find were that I loved the job that I had, but I knew it wasn't going to be a life functioning. So anyway, during these times, I had a few friends who stuck with me when I had literally nothing to offer. And oftentimes, not even pleasantry. Like I was not even pleasant to be around. I was so angry and miserable and sad and hopeless and, all these things. And so those few friends that I had that really knew the deepest, darkest parts of how I was feeling and listened to my bullshit. I mean, like really hung in there and listened to my bullshit when I had nothing to offer. And then when opportunity came for me to turn it all around, I was a little lost in what to do with that and how do I go about doing it. And I had some friends that really, and my mom, I don't know what I would have done without her, but I had some friends that stepped in and said, here's what you need. Go do it. And so now that I'm building myself back up and I've got these things, I've found little moments where I was able to do something for these people who were that without them, like a surprise.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when people think like that, they think it has to cost a lot of money. And it doesn't. And because I have my girlfriend in New York, she's been on the air before, and bless her heart, why she's taken my shit for 14 years, I don't know, but she has. She has gone through the ringer with me and back. And she was having cataract surgery. Well, she's also another single woman on her own, doesn't takes care of things herself, does her own thing. And I thought, wow, she's going to have this surgery and she feels nervous, and you know what I mean? She doesn't have it. So I just had flowers delivered to her. Like, she'll come home and it's the somebody thought of me, and ooh, that changed my perspective right now because that made me feel happy for a
Yeah.
moment. And my other girlfriend down south, Sarah, who I'm trying to get on the air, but she's horrified. She was my mentor in the beginning of all the mediumship stuff. And it was her birthday, and she's another single woman doing it on her own, single mom. You know what I mean? Like, and her husband's passed, and she's literally like doing this on her own. And I thought, oh gosh, so her birthday came, so I sent her a singing bowl because she's, and so for Julie, I wore that sweater she's talking about last week. It's not the same one. Obviously, Julie's much smaller than I am. But I had bought that sweater, and it was a $110 sweater on clearance. I bought it for $26, and I was so excited.
Oh,
right?
Hallelujah. Yeah.
And I ordered it, and I got it, and I put it on, and I'm like, oh, this is like a hug. Now, it's not flattering for the chubby girl, for the record, because it's very cable knit, but I didn't care. It felt like a hug. And it's got pockets and a hood, and it hangs down to your knees, and it's big and squishy. And I was like, oh my God, I love this sweater. So then when Julie came on the air, I was like, she's always in a cardigan, because it's really a giant cardigan. Yeah. She's always in a cardigan. Oh my God, she'd love this freaking sweater. So I went on to see if they still had them on clearance, and they did. And then, because I shop at the store a lot, they had a coupon because it was my account.
Right.
Julie, you did not know this. Spirit was working with you having that sweater with my coupon, ended on clearance, and the whole thing. That $110 sweater cost me $7.97 to ship to Colorado.
That's fantastic.
So I was like, oh, Spirit's working with me. But the funny part is that Julie loved that sweater, and she did not know it was $7. Now she does. But it's the point of, it made me feel good to go, thank you guys for all the shit you took.
Yeah. Amen, sister, she says.
And you know what? She came home and went, oh my God, somebody thought of me and knew what I would love.
Yeah.
And because she took a picture of herself wrapped up in it, because it's really one of those, like, oh, just, you feel like a hug. And so that's the story of the sweater, which I did not intend on telling on the air today.
She's out there in the land of snow in Colorado.
Yeah, Vail, and she's cold, and she has some arthritis stuff. And I thought, this is just a big warm hug. That's awesome. It's just a big warm hug. So there's the sweater story.
That's awesome.
With more of it. But I guess kind of the reason I went with it is that a lot of times I am not where I want to be. Okay. I have a goal. I am not where I want to be. But I am where I wasn't 2 years ago and a year ago.
Sure.
And it's the stepping stones. And I think that sometimes, even, and I can't throw stones at glass houses for this. We get so locked up in staring down, but I'm not there yet, that we forget to look at, but I am here and I wasn't then. And what's important to me, at least, is I value in my life integrity, truth, and heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I allow people to make mistakes and to be angry or to be flawed according to society, because to me that just means you're real. But it's very important to me to value when you find genuine people like that, because it is a rare find. Not that the people themselves aren't, but that fit you. Mm-hmm. That fit the pieces of you, because that's another thing I think we find in society a lot, is that people think that they have to fit. That's what we were talking about actually before this, funny enough. Everybody thinks you have to fit the mold that fits for everybody.
Right.
No, that's an impossible. That's a feat of failure. It's impossible. So when I do this, I recognize when I'm able to, and I feel blessed that although I'm not where I want to be and I don't own my house yet, blah, 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 I am better than I was, and I could afford to do this, to do something nice for people who did something for me. Mm-hmm. And those are people that I've realized that God's spirit, whatever word you want to use, placed into my cup that fit my mold. Does that make sense? So
Yep.
it's a unity. So anyway, that's the story of the sweater, but there's a really heartfelt reason for the sweater. And that's, I guess, why, since she brought it up when I was going to talk about it, I thought I'll say, stop sometimes when we're beating ourselves up about not being where we want to be, and look at where we've come, and then realize that what's equally important in your life is who and what has come with you, and then value that even for a moment. um and it raises your hope, it raises your possibility, it raises the love factor. Everybody says you have to love everybody. Okay, you can't. I don't think that's a possible state, but you can wish love for everybody, and you can certainly do no harm.
Mm-hmm.
Do no harm. And when you find people or things or situations that are a blessing sent, that help you in your ugly, appreciate them. And our society says by appreciating them, I have to be able to afford to buy Julie the house she wants. You know what I mean? And you don't. And it's funny because Julie really loved that sweater, and it was $8. The $8 has nothing to do with it. It has to do with how somebody feels. So in this, and I'm going to get to what we were talking about in the first place, but in this, I guess it's a moment to share with everybody. Take some time to reflect on something a little bit differently and ask yourself, okay, I realize I'm not where I wish to be, but I'm also not where I was. And in this moment, right here, right now, this very second, what do I value? Because gratitude is a word that's thrown around pretty easily now. Kind of like narcissist, or you know what I mean? Like there comes this cliche word that we put on things. And so I guess to change it up a little bit, stop and ask yourself, what do I value right now? Because when we get lost in the maze of life, sometimes we say, well, I value, my job and my title and my paycheck and my, and we realize that we start to value things that can be taken away without your control, without your knowledge. So we can appreciate things that we have that can be taken away, but that's really not what our value is. What is important to us is a core that cannot be removed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our values and things. So I value these people for reasons that are personal to me. And that's kind of the getting to know yourself and understanding yourself. I value people for reasons that touch my heart. I value people who have struggles that other people don't understand, but it's because I can relate and mirror to what that feels like. So take some time. What do you value? Who do you value? And it doesn't have to be buying somebody anything. Weird enough, most of my friends live across the country. I have very few physical people like
I'm the same
physical
way.
people.
Yeah.
People, I've got one in New York, Julie's in Vale. My other girlfriend's in South Carolina. We're always on the
Yeah.
phone. But what do you really value in your life? And when we can stop and say, what do we genuinely value, we can start to focus on what really matters. And we start to focus on what really matters, other little things that we focused on that were kind of blocking us will kind of fade away. Naturally, they'll just kind of go away because our vibration, we call it, or our energy will raise, and a sense of joy, a sense of happiness, and a sense of true gratitude will come. To say I'm grateful for and just say it, yay, good for
Yeah,
you.
it's kind of like when you
But to
were,
feel it,
yeah, like when you were a kid. Now I lay me down, and you'd rattle off, and God bless Grandma, Grandpa, Uncle Bob, Aunt Jill, you
because
know,
I was told to say this.
right,
Right.
right, you know,
Right.
and so the meaning behind it was okay, but the feeling, to your point, or
Right.
what you truly value is that behind it, and that's what a lot of people. Oh, I'm grateful for the air that I breathe.
Right.
I'm like,
Well, you can be grateful for it, but if you didn't have it, you'd be dead, and then you'd be grateful up there. So I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? Because it's a feeling that comes up. And here's what I believe is false reality, that you can feel it 100% of the time. I love this. I feel gratitude all the time. No, you don't. No, you don't. And my struggle with that, and it's a personal struggle with it, is when you say that to somebody who's genuinely down. Like, I don't mean victimhood and feelings. I mean like genuinely can't rise. They're struggling to rise. All you're doing that is going, "Oh, you can feel gratitude all the time. I can't even feel it for 5 minutes." And what did you do? You pushed him down the hole.
Right.
You pushed him down the hole even farther. I can't even do that. I can't even do that. So you can't feel it all the time. You can have it all the time and know that to be aware of it, but to feel it all the time is not possible. Spirit, God gave us a whole spectrum of emotions to feel and to navigate. And we're within those all the time. We can have gratitude for the fact that we're aware of them.
But then, then there's that inner battle, right? It's that negative.
That's
mind.
where we're going today.
Is that negative mind talk,
Right.
as you say? And I'm really trying to pay attention. Earlier this year, or it was the end of last year, you talked about goals and whose voice do you hear?
Right.
I've really been trying to pay attention.
Today
to
we're
that.
going to get into the details of whose voice do you hear.
Yeah.
And why that happened.
Okay. Because I've really been trying to pay attention to that. And it's sometimes baffling, I think.
Look how good Kent is getting me back on track. Because he knows that I'll just go out there. That's actually what we're going to talk about today. So I decided, and I thought about it. It's been like 2 years since I did a show that explained this, and the listeners have literally multiplied times 10 or more. Oh, yeah. So I decided to go back into this. So for those of you who have been following the whole time and already know this, I'm sorry, but we're going to do a refresher. And for those of you who don't, here we go. Quick reminder too, today we are starting the downloads recordings. And how it's going to work, hopefully in the near future, is we're going to put out 3 at a time. And we're going to be starting with reconnecting mind, body, spirit. Yeah. To me, this is the base one for everybody. This is where you start. It's going to reconnect you to get you to understand it. And then with the first 3, we're also going to be doing one for pain relief and healing. And I'm going to point something out for that in just a moment, because our body and our brain work together, and we tell our body what to do, and we can change things. So 100% of the time, no, there's a whole bunch of things involved in that, but we do have the control and the power to connect those 2 things together. And I will say it today because this is my real hair. And I've been working on it for 1.5 years.
It looks great.
And this is my real hair. Still has a little ways to go, but 1 year ago, I could not have come on here with my real hair. There would have been a big bald spot in there.
Nobody knew.
Right. But I practice what I preach. I actually do with myself what I work with clients for. And this is my real hair.
And this is mine as well.
For those of you who don't know Kent, he's bald. And I was going to beat Kent Jr. if I didn't do something about it. So we're going to do healing and pain relief, because you can also help your body to ease physical pain. So we're going to do healing and pain relief. And then we're also going to do an inner child, which there's multiple different inner child ones. But the first one we're going to start with is I am good enough, and looking at our levels of self-confidence. So putting that out there, I'm very excited to start that today. And we're going to premise in, and that's why I decided to do this and explain. Yep. When we are born, and now they're actually proving even in the womb that this can happen. Yeah. But when we are born pure of thought and knowing, right? Because we're just born. We haven't experienced life yet. And from birth until about 8 or 9 years old, we're kind of a human sponge. We're absorbing everything around us. We're paying attention to everything that happens. We're absorbing how we feel and what we see. We're deciding what's good and bad and right and wrong. And we're making decisions. And we're making decisions that are going to be locked in. Okay. And it's kind of God's joke, but we'll get into that conversation. To me, it's kind of like, oh, nice job. And we're making these decisions of what's right or wrong. So we're developing what we call our subconscious, unconscious mind. And what our unconscious mind's job is to protect us, to save our life, to keep us happy, and to create what we want. Okay. So from birth until about 8 or 9, we're absorbing all these things around us so that we can survive. Okay. That's our survival mechanism. Now, if you had a trauma, or if you had a toxic environment, or if you had an event that occurred, or whether you had a constant thing, whatever it is, because everybody's different, that's going to help to alter those decisions that we make about ourselves, about others, about our views, about our values, about all these things. Now, they're even proving that if a mother during pregnancy experiences a significant trauma, that the baby can tend to be born with fears of something it didn't experience, but because of the energy within the mind and the body connection, and obviously a baby's within you at that time, that they'll absorb the trauma, they'll absorb the energy of the trauma, because our body has an electrical system in it as well. And people who don't understand that, I'll just explain. What do you think an EKG machine reads? It's reading the electrical currents. It's reading the currents in your body. You have an electrical system in your body, so that can even affect the baby. And that electrical system and those currents are what make us feel things. So people say, like, well, but an emotion is a feeling. No, an emotion is a word and it's an experience. But you feel it is a feeling. And that's what we generally fear. And that's what we make our decisions based on. How does it make us feel? Because I can say, Kent, do you feel sad? And you can go, sad? No. Right? But I said the word sad. That's an emotion. You have sad as an emotion in you, right?
Yeah.
But you don't what right now?
You don't feel sad.
Correct. Yeah. Because it's the physical feeling. So we don't like the physical feeling that occurs. Okay. Based on that, we make decisions on what we will or won't do because we do or don't want to feel that physical feeling in our body. And I express it in the office oftentimes because people will come in and it's very common for them to say, what brought you in here today? I don't want to feel how I'm feeling. Okay. What do you wish to feel? Happiness and peace. It's the common answer. Okay, tell me what that is.
Yeah.
Well, happiness and peace, calm. No, that's another sensation. Right. Tell me. Well, you know what peace is. Well, I know what peace is for me. What is peace for you? Describe it. 99.9% of the times they can't.
Yeah.
They can't describe it. And it's because it's being looked at as something that's out there. It's a happening that's going to come and cause us to feel something. Well, if I hand you a check for $1 million, don't get excited, not happening. But if I hand you a check for $1 million, you're going to feel excited, right?
Yeah.
Probably a little shocked at first, and you're going to pretty much be aware that it's going to bounce. But for a moment, right, you might feel excited. And that'll create a sensation in you, right? A physical sensation in you. But does it change your whole life? Does it change who you are? It really doesn't. And it won't in a short period of time.
Right.
Because the sensation will leave. The sensation of what you felt when you held that check and knew, oh my God, I'm so excited, will go away. The physical sensation will go away. So that outside thing isn't going to change your life or who you are, but it's going to express a physical sensation that you will now search for. What blocks that? Our negative mind talk. What blocks it? What blocks our opportunity? When and I use that as an extreme example, but when life offers us opportunity or our own desires offer us opportunity, what creates that part of us that says, I'm not going to bother. Yeah. I can't. I never could have. It's our negative mind talk. 9 times out of 10, and I've proven it over and over again in the office, when we dig into it, it's in that birth to 9-year-old range. Okay. A decision was made about yourself or about the way you view something or about your worth or, the list could go on and on. that was locked in.
So Jen Krejci, good morning, says the way we talk to our children becomes their inner voice.
150,000%.
Okay.
150,000%. Now, don't mistake that for this. And here's what I see commonly with that. I don't want nasty emails for this. It's just my view. Our over enabling of our children and not having them hold accountability or take responsibility has become a huge problem. So don't mistake, yes, what we say to them as their inner mindset with, we have to lie to them and not make them be accountable for who they are. There has to be a balance there.
Yeah.
To degrade them is wrong. To say, I see where you made this mistake. What made you think that was okay? What made you feel like that was the okay thing to do? And allow them to express themselves as to what that was. And then, as you, as the parent, have a right, do you hear that? You, as the parent, have a right to say, I understand why you came up with that. That's not how I see it. And this is how I see it.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's going to be a repercussion or consequence that you need to pay. But I do understand. I hear you. I understand where you got that from. But here's how I feel about it. And this is how I see it with my extra 30 years of life experience. Okay. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're wrong. But all we have is what we have in the moment.
Yeah.
The best we can do in the moment. So degrading and or just saying, and I was one of these parents. I thank God my daughters don't really listen. Because there'd be some call-ins right now. But by just saying, I can't believe you did that. You're a terrible little child. I can't believe you did that. That's very damning. Mm-hmm. Because they're at a phase in their life where they're deciding who they are. And when we're born into a family and our emotions are set to these people who are supposed to take care of us and nurture us, we view that as right, wrong, and love.
Sure.
Okay. So we make decisions on what that is. So when we decide that we are a horrible person and we lock that in and believe that because somebody who loved us the most said it. Now, does that always happen? No. We don't know who's going to lock in what at what time. That's how our filters are created. But those things can be very damning. So in my personal opinion, the best thing we can say to a child who's really effing up is to sit down and come to their level. And I don't mean level in a negative way, like they're below us. I mean to come to where they're at and just say, I don't understand why you're making the choices that you made. I don't understand why you're reacting the way that you're reacting. I don't understand any of it, but I do understand that I love you and that I may have been a part of that. Please tell me what your mind is saying to you. Please tell me what you're hearing. And allow them to do that. And you build a rapport there where you grow together. Together. Why doesn't that happen often? Because this part gets left out. And I may understand I may be a part of that.
Yes.
We don't want to hear where our faults and our mistakes were. We need to if we really want to relate to another human being. And that's a parent-child relationship. But we're talking about, you and I have talked about it in marriages and what have you.
Yeah.
It's a rapport dynamic where people grow together. Okay. And both people are then seen. And I guarantee that by taking that, your child will have more respect for you than they've ever had. Because now they feel seen and heard. What does everybody wish to feel? Seen and heard. Yeah. Sometimes you don't even have to do anything different or for them, but just the fact of being seen and heard is elevating.
Yeah.
No longer in the shadows. Silly enough, just like those little gifts. They're not that big of a deal, but those people heard, I love you, thank you. Mm-hmm. See and hear. So yes, with children, that can be, and here's the other thing, as a parent or as a spouse or whatever role you want to place yourself in, with the enabling aspect of it, are you parenting your child through your own wounds? Or are you parenting your child as an individual person? Oftentimes, we're parenting our child or in our marriage or whatever through our own wounds. In other words, I'm going to create a dynamic or scenario that this never takes place again. And we often do it to a degree that we actually create it to take place all over again. Why is that? Because our focus is on that. All we're focusing on is what we don't want, so much that our vibration and our thought and our view is of what we don't want, creating exactly what we don't want. And that's where the whole manifesting thing, and that could be a whole other show, comes in. I don't believe that I don't believe that there's a spirit up there with the wheel of fortune spinning,
Right.
saying, oh, well, God, you said 10 great things today. Here. I don't believe that's how it works. And I don't believe that there's a spirit up there going, you were depressed and said negative things for a week. Oh, you're going to pay. I don't believe that's how it works. It has to do with us and how we feel and what we allow to come through us. So are you parenting your children through your own wounds or through what you feel your own losses were that would have been created during that same period of time? So questions you can ask yourself when you're trying to debate that part of yourself or that negative mind talk, because all of us have had it at some point where there's that exciting moment. I'm going to go do this and this is going to be amazing and I'm so excited and blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden, a little while later, what happens? Oh, but what if it fails? What if I can't do it? What if I do it and people think it's weird? What if, you know what I mean? All those little voices start coming up and self-sabotaging. So when that happens, stop and pull yourself back and be real. Those are real thoughts and real emotions.
Yeah.
My struggle with the whole love and light view, or oops, sorry, I didn't know I had my volume.
Now for the thought of the day.
My struggle with the mindset of positive thinking, which I believe in, is that it seems to be out there in a way that negative thinking should just be dismissed.
Yeah.
And by dismissing it, we're keeping that little voice talking. So my view is stop and accept, wow, these are real thoughts and feelings that I'm having. Why am I having them? Where is my self-sabotage? And then this is key. Take yourself back and be honest with yourself. How did I view the world, relationships, my self-esteem, whatever it is you're doing when I was 8 years old? What did I see? What was my relationship experiences? What were my examples and dynamics in my life? How did I feel about friendships? Had I had people who made fun of me? Was I the kid who was bullied? Did I have toxic parent relationships? Were my parents unhappy and one of those couples that stayed together for the children? So all I saw was anger, which came with love. Whatever that dynamic is, and get real with yourself. And at 8 years old, how did I view the world? How did I view relationships? And how did I view myself? I will almost guarantee you will start hearing those little words in your head. You'll start hearing those beliefs, because from that time frame, your unconscious mind said, if I feel this way, I'll always be protected from feeling it again if I avoid it. I'll always feel that way. And you made a decision. This is what I have to do because I know that when I take a risk, I'm going to be made fun of. Or because I took this risk and it was really hard for me and I was really proud and I failed. Now I'm always a failure. All those little things get distorted in there. And then around 8 or 9 years old, the critical mind comes in. And it's kind of like a filter. And it separates the unconscious mind and the conscious mind. And the conscious mind is what you think with. The conscious mind said, Lisa, get your butt up out of bed and go take a shower. You got to go to the show. You're going to use your real hair today. That's my conscious decision making. Yeah. Okay. But then truthfully, actually, that's a funny one. But as an example is when I started doing it, I'm picking at it, right? And going, but what if somebody sees my bald spot that's still right there? There's still a little part that's right there.
You're on the radio.
And instantly that self-sabotage mind came up with the moment of, I'm so excited, I'm going to wear my real hair today. And then, oh, but what if? And I went, oh, what if? That's the little girl who was insecure, who was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I kind of recognizing those things and rewiring that thought process, because the truth is, what if? What if somebody notices that I still have a little bald spot right there? What if? Is my future husband, who was amazing out there, going to see my little bald spot and be like, oh, damn, well, she had it till then? Well, then he probably wouldn't be the good one anyway, right?
Right.
Think about it. So it's silly things sometimes too, just silly things. And when we recognize it as the part of us that made those decisions, we can then give it a little less energy, a little less focus. The benefits of hypnosis is we can actually take, and in a hypnotic state, and for the record, and I've said this before, but because we're clarifying, I cannot make you bark like a dog or dance like a chicken if you weren't the type of person who would bark like a dog and dance like a chicken anyway. I, in hypnosis, cannot have control of your mind or body. You are in control 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And when people ask them, but people on stage hypnosis do it. People who do stage hypnosis, first off, it's a different type of hypnosis than what I do. And secondly, they are trained and know how to look for certain personality types within facial expressions, movements, sitting postures. There's a certain type of personality that will accept that type of hypnosis. And yes, the majority of those have plants in the audience in case there aren't enough natural people who came with that personality type. So in the office, I cannot or do not have control over you. What I do is I help to get you to a state where you are so relaxed that your inhibitions can kind of fade and open, and you can allow yourself to feel free to literally feel and be who you are. And in that, we predetermine together what we're going to reprogram, and we can help to, or rewire, I guess is a better word. We can turn some of those negative thoughts into positives. So we can change, kind of like pulling out the plug and putting in a new one.
Yeah.
We can change what that is. And in some cases, we can change some of your positives into negatives. And I always say, why the hell would you do that? Addiction is one of the biggest ones. Because at some point, a decision was made that when I feel uncomfortable or I struggle, this is a good relief from that. Mm-hmm. It's embedded in you as a choice. Now, does everybody make that choice when they're around addiction growing up? No, we don't know. And the judging of when and why somebody made a decision is where one of our biggest flaws as a society are. But some people do and some people don't. Some people go the total opposite. I grew up around alcoholism. I had 4 alcoholic grandparents and an alcoholic father. I don't drink because I consciously went, oh yeah. You don't like how it makes I don't like how it makes me feel either, which I've always been grateful for. Right. But yeah, this isn't a way you want to go because you saw the outcome of when you do. And some people don't do that. Some people go, wait a minute, I know when this happens that this worked. It's not a conscious decision to make. It's that unconscious. So that's when turning a negative into a positive, or a positive into a negative would be, because it's not positive to blur your emotions with an addiction.
And speaking of being addicted, you're listening to 21.6 The Net right here. It's Lisa's Changing Perceptions. Check Lisa out at www.lisaschangingperceptions.com. You can set up a time to get with her to help you out with all these things. We also want to thank our good friends at Natural Therapy Wellness Center, www.mchenrymassage.com, 815-385-8190, for supporting the show financially, which is fantastic.
Yes. So. Great gratitude. When I have gratitude, that is gratitude.
That is gratitude. Okay, so a question for you then, as we're looking at it, it sounds very easy.
Oh.
Okay, you're like, hey, you just go back, ask your 8-year-old kid, and I'm like, it ain't that easy.
No, and it's a process. There are moments when it's very easy and you get that epiphany and it's almost instantaneous. Mm-hmm. Those are moments. What, again, we as a society and we get to is we crave instant gratification.
Yeah.
So what happens oftentimes is somebody will get the epiphany and then all of a sudden they'll go, Oh, I have all the answers now. Great. Then you have a piece of the puzzle.
Right.
There's other pieces out there still scattered. Um, and allowing that to process that and go, wow. And now, when did I make that decision? Why did I make that decision? Is that decision real? Because now we're looking at it from the adult wise self.
Mhm.
Okay. And I know the joke usually when I say that is, well, but not everybody's wise. To their own degree, they are. They're wiser than they were when they were 8. Okay. So, from the adult wise self, is that even true? Do I have evidence that that's true? And if you do, cool. That's okay too. Because, some people are like, but I do have evidence that that's true. Okay, amazing. Because by recognize that, we know what to work with.
Right.
Amazing. That is, you have evidence that that's true. Would you like it to still be true? Are you ready to let go of it not being true? There's a whole process involved in it. But the point would be is that the blessing behind it when we feel like there's no hope to ever feel better is this. Fact is, and if you want to follow the science, as a scientific fact is, we developed and created and made these decisions back then.
Yeah.
Okay. Now repeat what I just said. We developed and created and made these decisions back then. So if we did that once, what might we be able to do again?
Right.
Okay. And then people say, well, I made the decision in that moment, or I didn't make the decision like that. It was constant abuse or constant trauma, whatever it is for them. No, it's not true. It's not true.
So,
You contemplated what to do with that for a long period of time, but in a moment you made the decision. In a moment you made the decision. The decision is made in an instant. That's the instant we go to. The instant the decision was made. So some people think, oh my God, if I do this, that I have to relive all those things. No, you don't, because you already lived through that shit once, and I'm proud of you.
Okay. So as a friend, right? You and I are friends, and I see that you keep sabotaging yourself, setting these little bear traps, and I call you out on them because I care for you, right? I'm like, Lisa, you're doing this because blah, you always do this.
But you're doing it based on what you see, not what I feel.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay.
So does it, because I want to help, right? I want to help my friend Lisa. But does that push back more or is,
Well, it depends. Just ask yourself before you approach that situation. And I'm one of those.
Mhm.
For those of you who don't know, I'm a little outspoken and I can be a little overbearing. And I have a little bit of control issue mixed in there just for sweetener. The to do that legitimately, and what I try to do the majority of the time, being very well aware of my personality traits, is why am I approaching this? Why am I doing this for her? Because you might really genuinely be doing it for me.
Sure.
But we don't generally do anything that there isn't a give take from. We're not receiving something from. So what am I getting out of this, and what's my push to do it? And if you can come back to a legitimate space of, I'm doing this because I know what that feels like, and I see maybe she can't see what I learned. You know what I mean? If it's a genuine, and you feel better because you're getting to express your learning to somebody that you care about, but yet you're also seeing it at their level because you can relate to them. When we do it from a sense of, and this is funny because I was taught this in school, and I was they didn't like my view of it. We were taught in school, like the fact that I wear jeans to my office was a big no-no. You're supposed to, supposed to dress a certain way, and they said you always have to one up your client. You have to be one up. What the hell would I do that for? They already feel like the whole world's doing that.
Right.
Why would I bring them in here and make? Because here's the truth. I wear jeans because I like jeans, and I relate to you because I screwed up a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes. So I'm not telling you I'm superior in my knowledge. I'm relating to you, and I've had these life experiences too. And here's the tools that I learned that help, and I'm offering them to you.
Yeah.
That's what I do. And in school, we're actually taught always stay one up from your client. No. I just don't relate to that at all. And my argument with it was, and I've said this on the air before, I don't care about how a car works. I turn it on and it goes, rock on. I'm having a good day, right?
Yeah.
But when it breaks and I go to my mechanic, he's more educated and experienced in fixing that car because of his choices and what he's good at and how he sees the world and how he sees his values and what he sees as his art. Okay. Should he speak poorly to me because I don't know how to fix the car? No. I'm coming to him because I value the fact that he took on this role in life and this is the thing that he really gets and understands. And I'm asking him to fix my car because thank you for offering the service, knowledge, understanding, and life experience that made you choose this route. And I'm going to pay you for the service because I need my car fixed. Now, should I be stupid because I don't know what's wrong with my car or how it broke? No. I'm aware enough to know my car is broken and to go to somebody who has learned how to fix it.
Yeah.
He's no better or less or more than I am in that moment. He happens to have learned and experienced something that I need in that moment. Now I'm going to go and use it. And to me, it's no different. So for one-upping, especially in this field, people who already feel like the whole world one-up them.
Right.
What purpose? No.
Right.
So the person you hear on the air is the same person who talks to Kent in the green room, is the same person who talks to my girlfriends on the phone, this is me. Do I tone it down a bit? Because sometimes I get a little trucker style in my conversations. Sure. But as far as the core of who I am and how I speak and how I feel, it is all legitimate. But that's from learning these things and from experiencing these things. So my point being is that you can always change it. You can always find the way to change it. But no, it doesn't happen in an instant. And here's the truth. Neither did your negative mind talk happen in an instant. It's kind of like gaining weight and then going, oh, I want to lose weight. It's not fast enough. Truth is, you didn't gain it real fast either.
Right.
It was, it's not like you went to bed one night and then a week later you're like, wow, there's 50 pounds. Where'd that come from? Right? It was a process of gaining it. So it's going to be a process to lose it. And it's a concentrated process to lose it.
Sure.
Right? So you didn't choose as a child to make these decisions. You didn't realize what was happening. Okay. And then all of a sudden it was just there. Right? When did it become just there? When it became uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? Same as weight. I mean, really, if you look at it that way, when it became uncomfortable, when something made it uncomfortable. And now it's going to be a process to change it. And that's the same way with our negative mind talk. But it is possible to change that because it was a decision that was made at some point in your living life. So now, at another point in your living life, you can choose something different, but it's a process.
Right.
Because that one decision is now, I call it the Cobweb Effect, but that one decision is now attached to, I'm going to be 54, okay? So is now attached to 45 years of other decisions I made with that belief.
Yeah.
So when we go in and we look at that root belief and we change that root belief or that decision, it's going to start weaving into all those other viewpoints. And I've literally seen it happen. Kent and I were talking about this thing called timeline therapy. And at some point I'm going to do a download for it, but I want to do it the right way so that people can really get the effect of it. But with timeline therapy, it's a process where you go back literally to the moment you made that decision. And you don't have to relive it. So don't let it scare you, but it's about dropping the emotional attachment to it. And it's a process that we do. And I've literally done it in the office. And then over 2 or 3 more sessions, seeing people bring up things that they never brought up before. I've been thinking, and there was this time when, oh, really? What made you make that decision back then? Well, I kind of believed this back then. I can see why I made that decision because it's going to start weaving through all those other views because now you change that core view. And it's going to start weaving through all those other views. And all of a sudden you start looking back at your life differently going, hey, what can come out of that? Forgiveness and relief of guilt. Because it's that reality that at that moment, now you understand where this came from and you did the best you could with what you had in that moment. And you can't change it. You can't go back and change that thing you did. But by understanding it, you can find forgiveness and understanding and compassion for it. And now you have changed it. Because you've changed your view of it and you've changed how you're going to move forward. So now rather than just saying, I'll never do that again, now you don't even have to tell yourself that anymore because the root has changed and now you genuinely wouldn't even consider doing that again.
Right.
So it's the process, but it is a weave process. And by living in how I view it, the common statement I use is a McDonald's society. Maybe I'll get sued by McDonald's someday, but I say a McDonald's society is I want it fast, I want it now, and I don't care if it's good for me.
Smells good, but you never walk out going, God, I feel great.
Right. Well, and face it, but it's fast and it's now, and
That is exactly
I
what
don't
you
care that
needed.
it's good
Yeah.
for me, and I only want the instant gratification of it. And we all do it sometimes,
Yeah.
and it's funny because it's how we're programmed and how we're wired now. And think about this. Here's another example: is that when you go to the drive-through at McDonald's, doing a quick fix, right? I'm hungry.
Yeah.
This is fast. We used to be able to say it's cheap, but we can't really say that
Can't say
anymore.
it anymore.
I want it fast. I want it now. And you even know it's not good for you, but you want. I'm solving the problem now.
You've even told yourself,
Right.
I'm not going to be happy with this
Right.
choice.
Right. And you know it. And then what happens when they say, can you wait up there at that window for just a minute? It's going to be like 2 minutes for your order. Truly.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, really,
Come on.
are you freaking kidding me?
You're a fast food restaurant. You can't
Right.
have fries ready?
Right.
What the hell?
And the reality is they just asked you to wait 2 minutes. And you know what that'll do for most of us? Screw up the next 6 hours of our day.
Oh, yeah.
And here's the truth. And when it screws up the next 6 hours of our day, it screws up all the things and people and things that we relate with during that 6 hours of our day. And so we're spreading all that around. And that's a kind of a joking, exaggerated situation.
But still,
but if you have a root anger or a root hurt or a root belief, and everything you do after that is affected by it because you won't let go of that, it's affecting all aspects of your life, right? So if you made that root belief when you were, say, let's figure it 6, okay? And now for 48 years, I have believed this to be true. When I let go of that belief and I realize that it's no longer necessary and I de-emotionalize, I de-energize that belief, all of a sudden, as we do our reflections and memories comes up and thoughts come up or people come around us that bring us those things, we all of a sudden go, wow, I see that different. And that's how we truly change our core and our belief. I've had people come in and they think that they're going to come in one time for one session. And boom, boom, boom. I want these things I just want them to go away. And I giggle. If I had the magic thumb that I could put on your forehead, I would make Oprah Winfrey look poor because the line would be so long to make that happen. That's really just not how it works. What I can offer you is tools to work with and some relief.
Yeah.
When people think that the hypnosis is the relief, I don't believe that. The relief is the hope.
Yeah, and the inner voice isn't necessarily shouting at you, right? I mean, because you've built habits. To your point, you've created those decisions to where you may not even hear that negative voice. Is that fair to say?
Right. You might not necessarily hear the physical wording, but you'll feel the vibration drop, and you'll feel the lack of excitement about it anymore. You'll feel those things change. So sometimes you don't necessarily hear, well, I'm a big loser, so it won't work. You know what I mean? You don't necessarily hear that in terms, but you'll see your actions and reactions and your motivation and your drive towards it kind of slow back down and kind of go back. And paying attention, that's why, like I said, with SARS, the recordings go, the reconnecting mind, body, spirit to me is the one every person can use. Every single person can use it no matter what. Because here's the other mistake is that you have to be some completely broken, traumatized person in order to need this. No, this is an everyday life balance thing. Yeah. And every single person can use that because it would be understanding exactly what you just said. Yeah. Wait a minute. Why am I less motivated than I was? I don't feel as excited as I did. But being aware of what that feeling feels like and recognizing where the disconnect is coming. How is your body responding? Because your body is responding to what your mind is saying, even if you don't hear it in words. Yeah. Sometimes we'll focus on it, or we'll get into a depression or an anger, an anxiety. We'll get into a really uncomfortable feeling. And that is that talk trying to speak. Yeah. And so by kind of understanding that mind-body connection, we can go, okay, wait a minute, I'm having this anxiety
Yeah.
start, and I always do that with anxiety because the biggest description for most people with anxiety is I feel like I'm crawling out of my skin. Like, it's that physical energy sensation.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm feeling that coming on. What is this trying to tell me? And it's understanding yourself because I can't tell you what it's trying to tell you.
Right.
I can't tell you that. Every now and then a people jump in and give me some guidance to help you get there. But the truth is only you know yourself. And that's why people have said, why do you call yourself a self-empowerment coach instead of a life coach? I can't coach your life, in my opinion. I didn't live it. I wasn't there as you created those filters. But I can empower you with the tools to take it on yourself and to do that. And it's funny because my brother and I are very different, very, very different. We're only 2 years apart. And teachers used to say to me, if you guys didn't kind of look similar and I didn't know it for a fact, I would think you were adopted. Just for the record, I was the rebel. In case anybody was curious, I was the rebel and the black sheep. And as I learned this, it's funny because they said, I can't believe you were raised by the same parents. And I've learned through this work and through what I'm doing and through hearing those things, because I heard that stuff growing up, which always made me feel less than.
Yeah.
I mean, he was an honor student and stuff, and I had the party till you puke t-shirt on.
Right.
That was the way it was. I can't believe you were raised by the same parents. And I always, it embedded in me kind of well, you're always going to be less than. And I learned in this that we weren't raised by the same parents.
Yeah.
We were raised by different parents because and it's not that it's my parents' fault that I did that. That's not my point. But my point being is that as we grow and as we learn and as we experience, we change. So, and you've brought it up before too.
Yeah.
When your youngest daughter says, but why didn't you with them? Well, because I learned since then.
Right.
It's a process of learning and growing and changing and adapting. So you can say, well, I was the same parent for all of my children, but no, you weren't. No. Because you learned and you had experiences and you grew and you changed and you absorbed and you changed the filter and you made decisions. So we change and we grow and we develop all the time. But sometimes we get locked in to that thing that holds us back. And those are the things that's when we go, okay, well, when you can't pull yourself out of it, you know what I mean? Let's go back and look at it. When it keeps coming up and you can't change it, you can't just go, well, I don't see it that way anymore. That's just the decision not to. But when it keeps you held, that negative keeps you locked in and you can't pull yourself out of that cycle, right, that's when these types of things, let's go back in and where did we make that decision from and let's change it. And that's where NLP can come in. I know we're almost out of time. That's where NLP can also help, because there are people, I went back and got a double NLP certification because there are people who are incredibly uncomfortable with hypnosis. And therefore I needed to find another way to help those people. Yeah. And NLP isn't what happened to you. It's how you saw it that created the decision. And the benefit of NLP is you never have to tell me what happened. But it's unwiring the thought process and going, yeah, where did that go to? And you never have to share with me what the experience was. And it's just an understanding of, oh my God, now I see why I see it that way. And kind of changing it and reversing that. So don't beat yourself up. And if you've made mistakes, it's over.
Yeah.
You have nowhere to go in life except stop, come to mind, body. Where am I right now? Yeah. Because my only option is to move forward or to stay stuck and miserable.
Yeah, I mean, right. So Buddhism has, Zen. You got to be in the moment. Yes. And if you can't be in the moment, then you're either in the past or in the future. And
well, and right, our mind wanders those places naturally.
Yeah, right.
But when we find that it's causing chaos, that's when these types of techniques can go, wait, I'm feeling chaos. I can't even make a flipping decision right now. That's when these kinds of techniques go, you know what? I got to pull myself back in.
Yeah.
Okay. The only way I'm going to calm the chaos is to calm the mind.
Yeah.
And that's where these tools and techniques can come in. And people think you have to sit on some mountainside for 6 hours in sandals to do this. No, you don't.
It would be nice, but
right,
you don't have to.
But you know what? Maybe you only have 10 minutes 3 times a week. Well, guess what? That's 10 minutes 3 times a week that you're pulling yourself back and becoming clear more than you did before. Do what you can, but know that you have the tools and the empowerment to do it. And that's why, as we talk about the downloads and things, I truly believe that there's not one person listening, and I do use my own techniques on myself. There's not one person listening that does not need the reconnecting the mind and body and spirit by learning how to pull that energy back and going, all that chaos, I can't do anything about it. Come right here.
That's right.
Be right here. So thank you all for joining us. We will see you next week, reminding on the 6th of February, if you have anybody who is struggling with addiction or has a family member or a loved one struggling with addiction, on February 6th, I will have a guest on that is from Love Another Way, who's going to be amazing and give you things that will be so helpful to getting your own life back, whether you are in the addiction or whether you are dealing with a loved one with it. So please remember February 6th to spread the word for anybody who may need that in your life. Remove your judgment of it and just say, hey, there's going to be somebody you might want to hear about.
For all of us here at Lisa's Changing Perceptions, thanks for tuning in. Stick around for Fellowship of Faith's Worship Hour right now, followed by Metaphysical Meanderings this morning. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.